Hey, when you are doing like the very literal thing of putting the seed in the dirt and watering it and giving it enough light, and you check on it every day, you make sure that it's happy, you start to put it outside after a point because plants have to do what's called hardening off. When you start them inside, they have to learn how to experience the sunlight for the first time and to experience a big breeze coming through. And that process really mirrors the creative process and reminds me of how much effort it does take to create. Sometimes it does come easy, but more often than not, it's planting the seed and watering it and getting it ready to go out into the world. And so, yeah, I mean, that's just one example of how, because we're so multifaceted, it's almost impossible for us to not feed one thing into the other. There's so many other things to be inspired by, you know, in the real world, or inspired by in my relationships with people, or inspiration from growing mushrooms on my countertop. You know, there's just a lot that life makes me want to sing about. This body's sick, but it's mine. When I was 15, I got a really bad migraine that we ended up going to the ER for. And luckily there was nothing that they could see that would have triggered a migraine. But what they did find were acoustic neuromas, which are tumors of essentially the same quality, but they are on the auditory nerves inside your brain. And they're very, very small, but they can affect change in a really big way the more and more that they grow. But I think I was just sort of living in like the summertime of my youth, you know, just like, oh, it's coming down the pipeline. It's this thing that's far off. And then within about the last year and a half to 2 years, I've started to notice I'm losing the high-end frequencies and the low-end frequencies, kind of like bookending in. And it's embarrassing, you know, it's hard not to feel embarrassed by it. I don't think other people are embarrassed by it for me or like mind it, but there's been times since this has kind of, you know, begun where I'm in a bar and I'll ask the same person what like 3 times and they just kind of give up. They're like, never mind, it's not that important. And those moments are the hardest because it's sort of like, no, but it was so important to me. That little thing that you said, I want to hear it so badly. And I think most of the time that I grapple with my hearing loss, it's in those moments when I missed connection, whether that's I missed a cue on stage, or I can't hear my note, or I couldn't hear the joke that someone told the whole group and everyone's laughing and I just kind of like, And I think navigating this is going to be a lot about being grateful for what I still have, which can sometimes be a hard way to look at it because I don't want to invalidate the loss, right? But I used to be really stuck in asking myself why over and over again, but it never provides that like emotional support that you're looking for, you know? I don't know why I like think of analogies so much, but like I just think of a spider web, right? And like the stronger the spider web, the more wind it can withstand, the more it can be beat around by the elements. And that's kind of how I feel about my life, is I just want to weave a really happy life, not so that it's free of these things that are going to happen externally, because that's impossible, but more so that I can have this really strong home base that can be whipped around by the wind and still be there. And I've just been blessed at this stage in my life where there's a convergence of a lot of these different ideals that I've held for a long time finally coming together to say like, hey, live intentionally.